Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Allahumma alimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na ma tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman wa ta'aliman innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. So he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا داود بن الحسين عن أبي غطفان بن طريف المري عن مروان بن الحكم. So Marwan ibn Hakam, he was originally the governor of Medina, and then he became the Khalifa. Okay. أنه قال, he said, قال عمر الخطاب. So he's not a student of Umar al-Khattab. So there's a gap in the chain here. من وهب هبة لصلة رحم أو على وجه صدقة فإنه لا يرجع. Can everybody hear me? So my internet cut out. Yeah. Okay. So when he says, Man wahaba hibatan li silati rahim, that Sayyidina Umar said, whoever gives a gift for the sake of keeping family ties. أو على وجه صدقة, or by way of charity. فإنه لا يرجع فيها, then he is not allowed to take that thing back. ومن وهب هبة يرى أنه إنما أراد بها الثواب فهو على هبته يرجع فيها إن لم يرضى منها. But if he gives by way of exchange, so this is, I'm gifting you something that I'm getting something back. So this is really an exchange. يرجع فيها إن لم يرضى منها. And you can just take it back because it's in reality an exchange and it's not a gift. قال محمد وهذا نأخذ ومن وهب هبة لذي رحم محرم أو على وجه صدقة قابضها الموهوب له فليس للواهب أن يرجع فيها. So he says, we hold this. If somebody gives something to a family member, for example, or gives as charity, right? And the person receives it. And the person receives it. Key concept. Okay, in sales, it is not a condition that the item of sale or the price be received. I sold you my car, but you didn't pay for it, so I sold it to somebody else. No. If I sell my car to Muhammad Sabir right now, it is his and he owes me the money. It is true, he is not liable for damages until I deliver it. But the sale can be done verbally and you do not need to exchange things for a sale. He owes me the money, I owe him the car. That's how it is. I cannot sell the car to somebody else. Okay? That's with a sale. With a gift, it's different. I have a phone right here. I have my iPhone, whatever it is, right here in my hand. And I say, Muhammad Sabir, I hereby give you this phone. The contract is not done until I give it to him. It's not. So I can take it back before I give it to him. And this is very, very important in inheritance. Very important inheritance. Why is it an important inheritance? Happens all the time. Grandpa died, and he said that I was going to have this side of the farm. Dad died, and he always told me that I was already living in this house, and he always said that you can have this, right? That was going to be mine. Everybody understood that this would be mine. Did they verbally or contractually say that it was yours? Did they write it down or did they verbally say it? No. Did he actually give it to you? Like he gave you the keys? No. He never gave me the keys. He never gave this thing to me. He just said he would give it to me and then he died. That does not count. That's not a transfer of ownership. So now that's going to be part of the terika. That's going to be part of the estate that has to be divided between everybody else. Now, if people want to honor the intention of the deceased, that's fine. As charity, that's fine. Hey, grandma always said that she wanted me to live in this house. And they're like, okay, that's fine. We honor her what she wanted. That's fine. As a gift. But they cannot be forced to do that. Because if you do not give it to somebody, right? and they actually take it, and with property, given the keys, they have access to it, they could rent it out while you were alive, they could sell it while you were alive, they had total control of it, then that's called giving. Otherwise, it's not called giving. That's called promising, and it doesn't count. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? And this is one of the many proofs for the majority of scholars that a promise is not binding. If a promise were binding, then when I say to Muhammad Sabir, I hereby give you this phone, which is not even a promise, I'm actually giving it to you right now, but then I don't give it to him, right? Because he's in Singapore and I'm in Malaysia, right? If a promise were binding, then the contract would be binding, right? But that's not the case. Why is it then a contract we stipulate that you say, I hereby sell you this car? بعتك هذه السيارة. You can't say, I will sell you this car, or I sell you this car. You say, I hereby sell you this car, right? I hereby pronounce you man and wife. I hereby marry you to marry you my daughter. Not, I will marry you my daughter, because that's a promise, and a promise is not binding, right? A promise is not binding. So according to the majority of scholars, a promise is not a binding. It is not contractually binding, right? There is a minority opinion, which is the position of it's not really there's a minority opinion which is some Malikis and some Shafi'is and some Hanafis. They say a promise is unconditionally binding, meaning if I promise to sell you this car, I have to sell you this car. If I promise to get you something, I get you some lunch, I have to do it. That is a very minority opinion, right? But the relied upon position in the Maliki school is a promise is binding if it has financial repercussions. If it has financial repercussions. For example, I want to buy a house, but I don't have the money. If I buy the house, will you lend me the first installments? Yes. So now I've made myself financially I've committed myself financially based on your promise. You are now obliged, right, to fulfill your promise, right? I'm going to buy a house and sell it to you for this amount of money. Do you promise to buy it? Yes. So in the Maliki school, that is binding. For the majority of scholars, that is not binding. A promise is not binding. It's not financially binding. So Sister Amina says, if you tell your nephew you can have the Encyclopedia Britannica you got from your father, and your daughter wants to know and says that that was what she wanted the most, can you go back and give your nephew something else? Yes, you can, because you didn't give it to him yet. He wouldn't mind, I know. Even if he would mind. So there's two things. There's two things, number one. Okay, number one. One is giving to people in general. Before you give it to them, you can change your mind. I'm going to give you this book. Actually, I've changed my mind. Before I actually give it to you, I can change my mind. Okay? That's number one. Number two, with your children and your grandchildren, you can take back a gift. So you gave your 16-year-old son a car, and he said, I'm taking the car back. Sorry. You're too irresponsible. Right? So with your child or your grandchildren, you can take back a gift. That's an exception. Okay? So as long as you don't give something to somebody, you can change your mind. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. It does.
But so does that mean it's halal to break someone's heart?
I don't think his heart will be broken.
Yeah, but this is an important thing. When somebody says A is halal, it doesn't mean B is halal. So we can we talk of things in different levels, right? So you say, for example, is it haram to divorce your wife for no reason? No, it's not. It's not haram, is it? No reason, right? It's not haram. Divorce is not haram. So everything's happy. Everyone, they're sitting at table, smiling, everyone's happy, and he just, for no reason, just divorces her in front of everybody. For no reason, right? So from one point of view, we say it's makruh. From another point of view, it says haram because you just broke someone's heart for no reason, right? So you told your kid, for example, hey, I'm going to give you this. Oh, actually, I'm not. Okay, well, please be careful with your words then. Like, don't make a promise to a little kid or make a promise to somebody, right? So there's a difference between breaking someone's heart is it halal to hurt people emotionally, intentionally, or by neglect, right? Like you're not careful with your words, so you hurt people's feelings, right? Oh, sister, are you pregnant? Oh, sorry. Didn't realize you're not pregnant. You just put on weight. I'm sorry. You shouldn't say that, should you? Just made this lady think it's like she walks off crying, whatever. Like, what are you doing? Be careful with your words. So there's a difference between it's not haram to not fulfill your promise, or it is not haram to take something back from your child, versus it is halal to break their heart. It's halal to make them sad. These are two different discussions, right? So in fiqh, by default, we do not talk about akhlaq because you already know about akhlaq. So that's why Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, he said, don't take your akhlaq from the fuqaha, not because they don't have akhlaq, but because they're not talking about akhlaq. Does that make sense? They're talking about two different things. Like you come and ask me, say, is it halal? Is it valid to pray while watching the cricket? Yes. Right? Now, if I told that in front of Sayyidina Umar, he'd hit me. Right? Sayyidina Umar would hit me for saying that. But I'm talking about validity. Is a prayer valid? He's talking about how you should pray. Two different discussions. I'm not talking about how you should pray. I'm talking about, is it valid? Have you prayed or not? I prayed dhuhr while watching the cricket. Did it count? Yes. Is that how you should pray? No. Right? So it's important to understand that, okay? Okay. Okay. So then he says, Bab an-nihl, I believe. That's how we say it. An-nihl. Not an-nahl. Nahl is a bee. Where is this? Let's see how we say this. Bab an-nahl. It's here. 1 second. Double checking. Giving gifts. Interesting. So, oh, that's we didn't finish it. That's why. Okay. So he says, قال محمد وهذا نأخذ, we abide by this. He says, ومن وهب هبة لغير ذي رحم محرم وقبضها فله أن يرجع فيها إن لم يثب منها. So he says, whoever gives a gift to a non-family member وقبضها يقبض قبضها, and he took hold of it, فله أن يرجع فيها إن لم يثب منها أو يزاد خيرا في يده أو تخرج من ملكه إلى ملكه وهو قول أحد ولا عامة من فقهائنا. 1 second, please. Uh-huh. Who is in the Reliance class right now? All of you?
Hi.
Yeah, you in the Reliance class? Sister Amina, you in the class? Adib, you in the Reliance class? Yeah. So we're just mentioning the Shafi'i school, right? In the Shafi'i school, We don't use the fatwa of a Sahabi as a proof. Okay? The Hanafis they do. So here is the fatwa of Ibrahim al-Nakhai, one of the great muftis of the Sahaba, of the Tabi'een, one of the greatest of the muftis. So if we look at the Hanafi school and compare it to the fatwa of Ibrahim al-Nakhai and the fatwa of Abdullah Mas'ud, the Sahabi, you're going to find a kind of 80 to 90% resemblance. That the Hanafi school is basically built from the school of Abdullah Mas'ud. So Abdullah Mas'ud and his students and his grandstudents like Ibrahim al-Nakhai, one of the greatest of the fuqaha. So Ibrahim al-Nakhai said, لا تجوز الهبة حتى تقبض. He said that. He said a gift is not valid until it's taken, you take possession of it, i.e. contradistinction to something else. والصدقة تجوز قبل أن يقبض. As opposed to charity is different. So a gift, something you give as a gift, as a way of honoring somebody. Sadaqah is different, right? So you left, for example, some money in front of someone's door and left. That counts. Eat also rice, right? That counts even if they don't take hold of it, right? Okay, 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so 1 second. So here's just I'm just reading here the commentary here from the Hidayah. So it says إما أن يكون ذي رحم أي لذي قرابة محرم كالأصول والفروع، وإما أن يكون لغيره سواء أجنبيا محضا أو كان ذا قرابة ولم يكن محرم كبني عم. So basically, if you give to family members who are mahrams, you cannot take that back, as he's saying in the Hanafi school. Okay. وكذلك في أحد الزوجين آخر. If you give to your spouse, you can't take back. So your spouse is not a mahram. If they were mahram, you wouldn't be able to marry them. But if you give to your spouse as a gift, can't take it back. Then it says, if you give to somebody who is not a mahram, but you give as charity, can't take it back. So you're giving to, what is it? Somebody who is not a mahram, not your spouse, not charity. Then you can take it back as long as A, it hasn't increased or decreased, or B, they haven't given you something back in its place. Yeah. So that's what he's saying. He's just summarizing the point there. So you give to your spouse, you give to your parents, you give to your son, you give to your aunt, you give to your niece, your mahrams, can't take it back. Why? Because it's achieving Salatul Rahim and that's what it's achieved. You can't take it back. Give it as charity, can't take it back. You give it to somebody who is not a mahram and they and they gave something back in its place, or they changed it, or they increased in it, can't take it back. But if you give it to somebody who's not a mahram, so you give it to some other person, and they have not given you something back in its place, then you can take it back. According to the Hanafis. In the Shafi school, you cannot do that. Right? As soon as they've taken it, you can't do that. But according to the Hanafis, you can. So it says, وَمَنْ وَهَبَ هِبَةً لِذِي رَحِمٍ مَحْرَمٍ أَوْ عَلَى وَجْهِ صَدَقَةٍ. So it says, you've given it to family members, or the mahram, or you gave it as charity, and the person has taken it, then you can't go back. If you give it to somebody who is غَيْرِ ذِي رَحِمٍ, not family member, and he's taken it, فَلَهُ أَنْ يَرْجِعْ فِيهَا إِن لَمْ يُثَبْ مِنْهَا, unless he's been given something in its place. or yuzad khayran fi yadihi, or it's increased or something like that. أو تخرج من ملكه إلى ملك غيره. You've given it to somebody, now they've given it to somebody else. Can't do that. It says وهو قول أبي حنيفة والعامة من فقهائنا. This is the position of our fuqaha. So this is the Kufan position, right? This is not the Shafi school. In the Shafi school, you cannot do that. So he's saying, but notice how he says it. He says, this is the position of Imam Abu Hanifa. What, Imam Abu Hanifa alone? No. وَالْعَامَّةِ مِنْ فُقَهَائِنَا, and our fuqaha. Notice that concept that I was talking about in the Reliance. The Hanafi school did not begin with Imam Abu Hanifa. It began before Imam Abu Hanifa. So Imam Muhammad is just saying it's our fuqaha, the Kufans. So there's already a madhab before Imam Abu Hanifa. It's just called Imam Abu Hanifa because he's a critical person. It's called the Hanafi school because he's a key person in it. But his fatwa are mostly not his at all. He's building on the Kufans, just like Imam Malik is building on the Medinans. Okay. So this is the Kufan school. This is not the I don't know what the Maliki school is, but this is not. I'm pretty sure it's not the Maliki school or the Shafi school. You cannot take back a gift, and the sole exception is taking it back from your family members. Allahu Alam. Taking back from your children, so your son or your grandson, not your parents, for example. Okay. So now the next one is an-nuhla. An-nuhla. There we go. Which is gifts again. She says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن سعيد المسيب. So this is the son-in-law of Abu Hurairah. And he says that Uthman ibn Affan. So I don't think he actually narrated from Uthman. So he's saying that he said that. رضي الله عنه قال من نحل ولدا له صغيرا لم يبلغ أن يجوز نحلة فأعلن بها وأشهد عليها فهي جائزة وإن وليه أبوه. So he was talking about the validity of receiving something, right? Validity of receiving something. So it says, if somebody gives you something but you pass it on, is that any way it's like? I don't know. I don't think so. So if somebody gave you a gift and you gave the gift to somebody else, that's fine. Now again, can you do that in front of them? Yeah, so there's a difference in itself. Is it okay? Like, I actually don't mind. You gave me some food as a gift. You said, please try it. It's nice. I say, actually, do you mind if I give it to somebody, my kids? Like, yeah, it's fine. Like, you don't mind. So here's a question. Are they obliged to make you feel good? The discussion we had last week, right? Am I obliged? So it would be nice, right? If I know that you wouldn't like it, then to not do it, right? But am I obliged to make you feel good? I'm not obliged to do that, right? So I can't intentionally hurt people's feelings, but I'm not obliged to make people feel good, right? So if you know that someone's going to be offended, it's better not to do that, right? If you know they're not going to mind, then there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not obliged to. I can do, if you've given it to me, it's my property now, right? I'll give you another example. You go to an expensive restaurant and you order some amazing $200 salmon. Okay. If the chef found out that you fed the salmon to gave the salmon to your cat, would he like it?
I'm sure he wouldn't.
Right? Depending on the chef, right? Many chefs are like, come on, I don't like it's your property, you paid for it, but please respect the expertise, the energy, you know. I remember, my friend gave me some food and I put mayonnaise on it. He's like, why are you putting mayonnaise on it? At least try it first. Try the food, see if you like it, right? And see if mayonnaise just you kind of abusing it, right? Like, why just put ketchup on something like that? You know? Why'd you do that? So people have feelings, but you're not obliged to make everybody feel happy, right? So there's two things: akhlaq and trying your best to make people nice, and the other thing is it's yours. It's property. That's fine. Okay, but you're not obliged to do that. It's not haram to do that, right? Somebody gave me a watch, I gave the watch away. I'm allowed to do that. That's what a gift is. Right? Okay, so he says, okay, so then he says, okay, so he says, you give something to a child of your own child, man nahala waladan lahu, one of your offspring, right, who is young and is not able to receive something. So the issue now is about financial agency. If you have not reached puberty, you're not a financial agent. This is a key thing in the Shafi school. In the Shafi school, you cannot buy and sell. It is not valid or permissible to buy anything at all before the age of puberty. You can't do it. So here's a 13-year-old boy. He knows what he's doing. He's mature. He's this and he's that. And he wants to go and buy a piece of bread. Can't do it. Haram and invalid in the Shafi school. Why? Hasn't reached puberty. Right? وابتلوا اليتامى حتى وإذا بلغوا اليتامى what is it? وابتلوا what's the verse? وإذا بلغوا النكاح وابتلوا اليتامى إذا بلغوا النكاح حتى إذا آنستم منهم رشدا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about orphans. So you're in charge of your orphans, this orphan's property. He says when they reach nikah, when they reach puberty, okay, then, so number one, then test them such that until you know that they have rushd. So in the Shafi'i school, you cannot financially be involved. You cannot be a financial agent until A, you've reached puberty, B, you are Rashid, meaning you are worldly and spiritually mature. You pray, you don't drink, you're not doing haram things all the time. I give you $10, you know how to spend $10. I give you $100, you know what to do $100. I give you $1,000, like, oh, I can't spend that. That's a lot of money, right? If you're not like that, then it's haram and invalid to give the orphan the money, and by extension to give anybody else any money. Here's a 10-year-old who has access to $1,000. If he buys something or sells something, it's invalid. Can't do that. Okay? In the Shafi school, right? So that's the idea there. And the Hanafis, they don't stipulate that. No, they say as long as the kid knows what he's doing, it's fine. But that's the discussion here. This man gave his son half of his business, right? And the son is 5 years old. He gave him a property, he gave him something like that. So he says, فَأَعْلِنْ بِهَا, announce it, say, I've given this thing to him. وَأَشْهِدْ عَلَيْهَا, and have people bear witness to it. فَهِيَ جَائِزَةٌ, maybe you die, and the kid's 5 years old, and he owns half of the business, right? وَإِنْ وَلِيَهَا أَبُوهُ, right? Even if the father himself does it, right? Even if the father himself does it, have witnesses. So that's the discussion here. So what do we learn from it? A, there's the discussion about reaching puberty. Okay, B, the recommendation of having witnesses, right? C, the invalidity of being a financial agent, being able to give or receive or spy and sell when you're a little kid, doesn't count. And then the clarity. So how does Imam Muhammad explain this? He says, قال Muhammad, وبهذا نأخذ, we hold this opinion. وينبغي لرجل أن يسوي بين ولده في النحلة. I think it's nihla. He says, it behooves, it should, it is recommended for a man to be equal when giving his offspring gifts. It is not obligatory, right? So your son, you gave your middle son, you gave him all of your whole property, right? While you were alive. None of the other sons had anything. Well, you gave your daughter all this money, right? You go to the shop and you buy, for example, you always buy candy and gifts for one gift for the other. It's not haram to do that. From the point of view of giving, it's not haram. From the point of view of breaking their heart, as it is, right? So this kid is traumatized because his whole life, his mother looks at him, smiles, and doesn't buy him anything, and always buys something for the other kids, but not him, right? That's something else. That's obviously haram to break someone's heart like that, a child's heart like that. It's haram from the point of view of breaking someone's heart, not from the point of view of the gift itself. What if there's a maslahah? What if there's a reason for that? You're punishing one of the kids. Say, hey, because of what you said yesterday, tomorrow when we're going to get ice cream, I'm not going to get you ice cream. Sorry. And that's so unfair, mama. I said, well, watch what you say to people. Watch what you say to people. I'm being harsh for a reason, right? So you're educating them for that reason. What you will buy a phone for one kid but not another because he's not old enough to use a phone because it's dangerous, because whatever, because how he used the previous phone, what he did with it, different things, right? Discretion. So if it's for a maslaha, there's something else. But otherwise, breaking someone's heart, making them sad for no reason, right? Why would you do that? Okay. So he says, but it is recommended, right? So again, remember the world that Imam Muhammad's coming from. He's not talking about as a parent. He's not talking about as a Sufi. He's not talking about as a moral person. He's talking about fiqh-wise. Is it obligatory for me to give equally? No, it's not, right? Even the Shafis, they mentioned this. I'm pretty sure the Hanafis as well. They will say that being equal between wives means you spent the night with both of them and you provided for both of them. So in the Shafi'i school, when you say equal, as long as you give, as long as you provide for both of them, it's called equal. But you could give one a $1 million diamond every single day, right? So that's they're talking about legally. Like, is that illegal? Is it technically unfair? No, it's not. Okay, Yawm al-Qiyamah, I don't know. You explain to Allah how that was, whether that was fair or not, right? So there's certain limitations the faqih can do because his realm is limited, right? His realm is limited, and he's generally talking about validity and blatant, obvious sin, right? The fuqaha don't talk about, for example, a faqih would never talk about ostentation or ghibat al-qalb because it's irrelevant, you know. Like, it's irrelevant to a fiqh discussion. Like, I never deal with that. That doesn't make it okay that resentment towards Allah is halal, or ghibat al-qalb is halal, or ostentation is halal. That's not even their discussion, not their realm. Their realm is the outward. Did you pray on time? Did you have wudu? Did you do this? That's their realm, right? So we have to understand when they say things, there's other considerations that are just not within their realm to talk about, right? Okay. So he says it's recommended that he be equal among his children and grandchildren for nihla and gifts. ولا يفضل بعضهم على بعض, right? And it's better that he not prefer some over others. فمن نحل نحلة ولدا أو غيره فلم يقبض الذي نحلها حتى مات الناحل أو المنحول فهي مردودة على الناحل وعلى ورثته. So if somebody gives something to one of his offspring, but the offspring doesn't take it, right? I have a house in Spain that's going to go to my oldest son. Tell him, Mikhail, it's yours. That house I have in Spain, that's yours. And he's like, really? Can I have pictures of it here? I did not put it in his name, didn't give him the keys, and have any practical access to it whatsoever. Right? حتى مات الناحل أو المنحول, until the child dies, or the father dies, or the mother dies. فهو مردود على الناحل وعلى مثل. It's going to go back to the person who gave it or to the heirs. ولا تجوز للمنحول حتى يقبضها, and is not validly the property of the person who's receiving the gift until they take hold of it. I give you the phone, I give you the money, I give you the car, here's the keys. Anything like that, right? إلا الولد الصغير. What about a small kid? Okay, so now my baby, I put the car keys in my baby's hand. Right, just answer the other hand. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا. Okay, so now I get my car keys and I put the keys in the hand of my son, right? فإن قبض إلا الولد الصغير فإن قبض والده له قبض. So now for the small child who's not old enough to be a financial agent, his parent is his financial representative. So you come up to me and you say, here you go, Fareed, I want to give your son, who's 2 years old, I want to give him this house in Spain. So I say, okay, fine, give me the keys and tell me where it is, etc. There we go, right? فإذا أعلنها وأشهد عليها فهي جائزة لولده. If he announces it and has witnesses, it's fine. ولا سبيل للوالد إلى الرجعة فيها. Now the parent cannot go back on that. ولا إلى اعتصارها, or to reject it. بعد أن أشهد عليها. Nor can he after he's had witnesses. وهي قول أبي حنيفة والعامة من فقهاء. And this is the position of our scholars in general. Right? So again, for the Shafi'is, if it's your child, you can take it back. So yes, you can be the financial representative of your child. That is true in the Shafi'i school. But can you give something to your child and then take it back? Yes, you can. And also, can you be the giver and can you be the agent? Can you be the two side? Can you take the two roles of the contract? As a parent, yes, you can. So as a parent, you could give and receive for your parent. For example, as a parent, you could sell to yourself. Like sell your child's property to you, right? Or as a grandparent, you could do that. As a grandparent, you can marry the two cousins off. So there's one man, he has here's one granddaughter, grandson. I married the two of them, right? Because you're the guardian of both, right? So that means you said, I hereby marry my granddaughter so and so to my grandson so and so, and then it says, and I hereby accept the marriage of my granddaughter so and so to my grand. So you said you were the two parties involved, and you chose the mahar, right? So you can do that. Normally in fiqh, you cannot be two people at once. So like a qadi, for example, if a qadi has a responsibility over a child, he couldn't, for example, buy from the child or couldn't marry the child. So the person has a legal authority over, let's say a qadi the judge has a legal authority over a child. He can't marry the child or like have the child give property. He can't do that. If he wanted to marry this little girl, for example, he would have to appoint somebody else as the person in charge of her and then say, I'd like to marry her. And then the person says, well, what, yes or no, because you need to have two people on either side. One person going for one person fighting for one person's rights, the other person fighting for the other person's rights, right? Otherwise, it's not fair. But as a grandparent, that's different, right? Grandfather, that's different in terms of marriage. It's different. Okay. So he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن حميد بن عبد الرحمن بن عوف عن محمد بن نعمان بن بشير يحدثانيه عن النعمان بن بشير أنه قال إن أباه أتى به إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إني نحلت ابني هذا غلاما كان لي. قال له رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أكل ولدك نحلته مثل هذا؟ قال لا. قال فأرجع. So he says that who is it from Muhammad ibn Abdurrahman ibn Auf and Muhammad ibn Nu'man ibn Bashir that they said, both of them said that Nu'man ibn Bashir said that his father brought him to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, I have given this son of mine a slave that belongs to me. So the Prophet ﷺ said, have you given all of your children a slave like that? And he said, no. He says, then take it back. Right? So it's a proof that it's recommended to be equal, and it's also valid to give something to your son and take it back. And he says, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن عروة عن عائشة أنها قالت إن أبا بكر قد نحلها جذاذ 20 وسقا من ماله بالعالية فلما حضرته الوفاة قال والله يا بنية ما من الناس أحد أحب إلي غنى بعدي منك ولا أعز علي فقرا منك وإني كنت نحلتك من مالي جذاذ 20 وسقا فلو كنت جذذتيه واحتزتيه كان لك وإنما هو اليوم مال وارث وإنما هو أخوك وأختاك فاستقسموه على كتاب الله. قالت يا أبتي والله لو كان كذا وكذا لتركته، إنما هي أسماء. فمن الأخرى؟ قال ذو بطن بنت خارجة أراها جارية فولدت جارية. Um, okay, so it mentions with the chain transmission, it says that Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that Sayyidina Abu Bakr, her father, had given her the jadad, had given her the produce of Ishrina wasqan, right? So I have this, she had the orchard over in a place called Aliyah near Medina, and you can have the harvest of 20 wasqs, right? A wasq is 60 sa', I believe, and a sa' is 2 liters. So approximately, if I remember correctly, 120. So 120 times 20. So 2,400 liters. It's a volume. 2,400 liters of dates or whatever it is of this place. Okay, so notice he didn't give her the orchard. He gave her the harvest. Okay, you can have from that place up there. I'm giving that to you. فلما حضرته الوفاة, when he was dying, he said, by Allah, my dear daughter, ya bunayya, there is nobody whom I would love to be wealthy after me more than you. And there's nobody who would be harder for me to see poor than you. Right? And I have given you the harvest of 2,400 liters of that place. Had you harvested it, right, and taken it, it would have been yours. I gave it to you. And if you had taken that while I was alive, it would have been yours. وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ الْيَوْمِ مَالُ وَارِث. But because you didn't take it, I gave it to you, but you didn't take it, now it is money that is going to be inherited. وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ أَخُوكِ وَأُخْتَاكِ. So there's you and your 2 sisters. فَاسْتَقْسِمُوهُ عَلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. Notice the point here. I gave something to you, but you didn't take it. There was no qabd. There was no taking hold of it. Now that I'm dead, I'm dying right now, and that I'm dead, khalas, you got to divide it before as that's now part of the inheritance. It's going to be divided between you and your 2 sisters. فقالت يا أبتي والله ما كان هكذا ولو كان كذا وكذا لا تركته. Had it been like that, I would have left it. وإنما هو أسماء. Right? فمن الأخرى. So you said I have is your brother and your 2 sisters. Which sisters? How do I have 2 sisters? There's just Asma and Abdurrahman. So who's this other sister? Right? قال ذو بطن بنت خارجة. It is the one that bint Kharija is so another mother, not her mother, half sister. Right? That is going to be a girl. There's a girl that's about to be born. أراها جارية فولدت جارية. Right? So presumably the baby was born before he died. Otherwise, how would they get inheritance? Right? If the baby's born after the person dies, then they get inheritance. So the point is, if you give something to somebody and they, so let's have a look here. No, not أخوكي. Where's أخوكي? So here it says فإنما هو أخوكي, but it's not أخوكي, it's أخواكي. Yeah, it's أخواكي, your 2 brothers. which is Abdurrahman and Muhammad. There's another one. Oh, Muhammad ibn Qasim. Yeah, of course. No, that's Qasim Muhammad. Oh, yes, Muhammad. So there is Abdurrahman. I don't know if they have the same mother as Aisha, but then Muhammad is the son of Asma bint Umais. That's what it is. So Muhammad and Abdurrahman. I'm pretty sure Abdurrahman is a full brother. Um, and then he says, وهي أسماء بنت أبي بكر وأم كلثوم. So the other sister is كلثوم التي كانت في بطن زوجته حبيبة بنت خارجة ابن زيد ibn Abi. Yeah. So the daughter of, I don't know who that is. Anyway, somebody else. رزقنا يريد به من ورثه بالبنوة لأنه ورثه معه زوجتاه. So I'm not quite sure what it's mentioning. Why would the baby, when is the baby born? Not quite sure why that's mentioned. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you promise something to somebody, they only receive that if you actually gave it to them while alive, right? But if it's after that you didn't get the property, you didn't do this thing, doesn't count. Okay, then let's the next hadith. So it says أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا ابن شهاب عن عروة بن زبير عن عبد الرحمن بن عبد القاري أن عمر بن الخطاب قال ما بال قوم ينحلون أبناءهم نحلا ثم يمسكونها فإن مات ابن أحدكم قال ما لي بيدي ولم أعطه أحدا وإن مات هو قال هو ابني كنت أعطيته إياه ومن نحل نحلة لم يجزها الذي نحلها حتى تكون إن مات ورثه فهو باطل. Right, so again another fatwa from Sayyidina Umar that he said, what's wrong with people giving their children gifts and then not giving it to them? Like you've said it, but you didn't give it to them. So then if he dies, if his son says, if his son dies, he'll say, oh, it's mine. I didn't give it to anybody. فإن مات, if his son dies, he said, and if he dies, قال, if he dies, وإن مات هو قال هو ابني كنت أعطيته إياه. So it says if his son dies, then he says it's mine, and then if he dies, هو is my son, هو ابني كنت أعطيته إياه. And if he dies, then he says, it's my son, I had given it to him. Look, I don't understand the sentence. But the point is, he says, whoever gives something to somebody and then doesn't finalize it by giving it, actually physically give it to them, then it doesn't count. That's the point of the same thing. Let's finish the chapter. He says, أخبرنا مالك عن ابن شهاب عن سعيد المسيب أن عثمان بن عفان قال من نحل ولدا له صغيرا لم يبلغ أن يجوز نحل فأعلن بها وأشهد عليها فهي جائزة وإن وليها أبوه. Same hadith as mentioned before. So I'm not sure why it's repeated. I'm not sure why it's repeated. The same quote as before. Allah. So let's go on to something else, which is things you give for a lifetime, but to be taken back. That's something else. Okay, inshallah, we'll stop here. So the point is, when you give something to somebody, it only counts if you actually physically give it to them, right? Otherwise, that's not finalized, and that's very important in inheritance. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.